You can say them to your nearest study partner, okay? How'd you do, Govindakun? Good? Now you feel comfortable with this one? Okay. All right, so the next thing we have to revise is on the previous, see page, Nectar of Instruction overview, Ishopanishads overview, Nectar of Devotion overview on page, is it 55? Yeah. It's hard if I put the glasses on because I'm actually farsighted, so I see better this way and I put the glasses on. That's a problem. So you have to help me out. Okay, so let us now refresh the original simple structure that the Nectar of Devotion, which is known as the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, has four, like an ocean, four divisions, and is on a compass. So we'll turn it this way, and the compass has north, east, south, and west. So this has been given a complete analogy to the ocean throughout, by waves, by divisions. So we have east, then south, then west, then north on our compass. And we can mark that first. Just as if you were on a ship, east, south, west, and north. So this analogy fits for this book. The Eastern Division, the Southern Division, the Western Division, and the Northern Division. So today we want to add the subdivisions of these directions for all of them. Last time we just did the Eastern Division, which consists of four waves. How many waves? Four waves. Okay, so it's actually very easy. Eastern Division has four waves. The Southern one has five. How many? The Western one also has five. So we have 4, 5, 5. The Northern Division has 7 plus 2. How many? 7 plus 2, totaling 9. Okay? 4, 5, 5, 7 plus 2. Okay? Everybody got that? So you want to erase that and draw it again. Now, turn to your neighbor and explain that. Simple. We'll just do a few steps at a time because this book is deep, so I don't want to go too fast. Okay, go ahead. Divisions, yes. Eastern? Not, it has four waves, yes. These numbers represent the waves. Yeah. Eastern Division has 4 waves. Southern has 5 waves. Western has 5. Northern has 7 plus 2. Now, for how many of you is this new? Is this new for most people here? How about you? You know this. She's well versed in this book. She's coming to give us her mercy. Just bless us. All right. So now let's just, before we go into the details, let's just quickly tell you what comprises those waves. All right? We went over that in detail the first time. The eastern one, which is what we had here in our overview, with the four breakdowns here of bhakti. So this one we had samanya and sadhana and bhav and prema. Right, we had those four divisions of bhakti. General plus the three, right? Sadhana and then bhav and then prema. So this is all about bhakti. Those four types of bhakti. This southern one, and this is coming from another book I have, these are the 5 bhavs. 5 bhavs. And that may be new for some of you. The 5 bhavs. The 5 on the left you will know. These are the 5 eternal relationships, the primary ones. Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Those you know. I mean, most people here will know that. Okay? So again, these are the 4 divisions of bhakti, right? The southern one are the bhavs. The western one are the 5 principal primary relationships. And the northern direction are the 7 secondary relationships. They are not primary. They often accompany, either in combination or mixture with the primary ones. And then there are 2 more points here, which are compatible and incompatible combinations. And then the last one is incomplete. Incomplete. And this gets very deep, because when you start reading this, they'll give references from the scripture. So that's where the ocean gets quite deep. But we'll proceed slowly. Okay, so the first side is the 4, right, general plus division of devotional service or bhakti. The bottom ones are the bhavs. On the west, you have the 5 primary relationships. That's one of the, you have to be one of those eternally. You may be Madhurya, you may be Shanta, you may be Sakya, Vatsalya, but that is your eternal constitutional position, and by the process of bhakti yoga, that becomes revealed to you. So this book is that process by which your eternal, which is already there. You can't change it, you can't manufacture it. It's there. It just has to become awakened. And this process, this is Nectar of Devotion, is the science of doing that. It's not just a myth, it's a science. And the top one are the secondary, right, secondary 7 relationships, plus the 2 compatible, incompatible mixtures. And then the other one is incomplete. Okay? So would you like to share that with your study partner now? Okay? So now you know in general what this ocean consists of. Those chapters deal with compatible and incompatible rasas. For instance, you don't get with Vatsalya something that would go with Madhurya. You know, it's called rasabhasa. But there are some things that will go together nicely. You know, just like certain spices and foods, right? So that's been defined. That's been defined. And then the last one is incomplete. Incomplete rasas. Say it again. You didn't understand that one. Okay. 7, we have secondary rasas. We're going to learn the names of those today. If you remember in the Bhagavad Gita how Arjuna is Krishna's friend, right? Yes. But when he sees the universal form, he goes into wonder. Now that's one of the secondary rasas, and it temporarily covers his original relationship. Suddenly he's afraid of the Lord, but that's not his eternal relationship. And he was so happy when Krishna returned to his two-armed form, because he said, he wasn't comfortable for a long time with the secondary one. So there are 7, and we all experience this as in life. Sometimes we feel happy, right? And sometimes we feel courageous, and sometimes we feel angry. Those are all secondary rasas. Or sometimes we feel dread, or something's ghastly, So they're all there. They're emotions, but they're not the primary ones. They supplement, and that's what gives all these mixtures of feelings. Is that a little better for you? Is that clear now? The last one is incomplete rasas. I don't know so much about that one. I just know the title. I haven't read too much from here. This is the book I'm referencing from. But I won't try to say at this point. But definitely there are mixtures that are good and mixtures that are incompatible. Right, like you don't put chili into sweet rice. It's not, yes. That's number 8. Oh, compatible. Right. In other words, if let's just say your Ras is Vatsalya, right? So if there's a feature in that would be appropriate for Madhurya, it's not going to work because that's not an appropriate one. It doesn't mix. And that's all explained in those chapters, which goes well. Yes. It's called Rasabhasa. Right. And if you can compare it to food, we just said if someone serves you sweet rice and garnishes it with a chili pepper, it's like, what is this? Doesn't make sense. It's wrong. Right. You get that even in ordinary life with some things. Like, let's just say you wear a sari, but you put on hiking boots with it. I mean, maybe you do need to go on a hike, but it's not the normal combination of what you need. Each has its place, but not together. Right. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. Okay. All right. Everybody clear on those general points? Say that again? Yeah, the Eastern one. We'll go over that now. Right, because that's our first point here. You weren't here for that. We briefly covered these before. General description, that's Samanya. And then the chapters that have to do with Vaidhi, Sadhana and Raganuga, those two, they're sadhana. And then the 2 chapters that have to do with Bhav. And then there's one last chapter, 19, that is Prema. And that's as far as they usually take the students. I have lectures, and you will have on your hard drive, Burjan, he goes all the way through the book. But in the course they don't do that, because once you get up to past Prema in that book, it's talking about things that are beyond most people's awareness. And it becomes, you start to feel uncomfortable, because you don't really understand beyond. Is that a little bit helpful? Has that answered the question all right? Okay. So let us now take a look from our study guide at that first division, the 4 parts of the Eastern division, those 4 waves. So please look at your study guide. You'll see they're mentioned here. And then we will go through the chapters that develop those points, or at least the list of chapters, okay? So we're not going to try to read them, because remember, our approach is progressive. We have to go step by step, otherwise it's overwhelming. So if you see in bold type at the top of the page, the first wave is called Samanya Bhakti. What's it called? Samanya Bhakti. Your second is called Sadhana Bhakti. What? Sadhana Bhakti. Your third is Bhav Bhakti. And your fourth wave is Prema Bhakti. Now, we had these same divisions when we studied the Nectar of Instruction, right? We saw those same divisions there. So this is not new. Okay. All right. So now we will make a little map that is a zoom in. Let's make a circle here. And we will put some eyelashes on this one. These are the 4 waves. This will be our, oops, sorry. This is a map of just the Eastern Division, okay? And we will put 4 eyelashes. Why 4? Right, it has four divisions. It has 4 waves. It has 4 waves. So we use that term because divisions mean east. So the first one we have S for Samanya. And then we have S, Sadhana. And we have B for Bhav and P for Prema. So quickly do that again. Very quickly. Just make that one really fast again. Eastern Division has 4 waves. Samanya, Sadhana, Bhav, and Prem. Now we have a picture of it. Now is everybody following okay? How about you, Govinda Kun? Is that clear? Please be clear, because that's why we're proceeding slowly. This is not an easy book. Okay? Now the sadhana, bhakti, of course, we know has 2 divisions. We've studied that before. So do you remember what those 2 divisions were from Nectar of Instruction? What are they? Vaidhi and Rag. Right, very good. Vaidhi sadhana and Raganuga sadhana. Okay? Samanya, sadhana has 2 types, Bhav and Prem. Okay? Now everybody clear on that? Because we add a little more now. All right, now let us take a look as to how these divisions break up into chapters. Okay? How does the book go? How does the book go? Because you'll find a huge portion for sadhana. Because that's what we have where we are. We're following sadhana bhakti. So a huge number of chapters is devoted to sadhana, 2 to Bhav, and how many to Prem?
1.
Just 1. Just 1. So we have from chapters 2 through 16. You see here on your chart, Sadhana Bhakti, the chapters from 2 to 16 cover both Vaidhi Sadhana and Raganuga Sadhana. Okay. Chapters 17 and 18 will discuss Bhav Bhakti. And chapter 19 will discuss Prema Bhakti. And that's it. That's where they stop in the classes. You won't go beyond that. You see, that's as far as the book takes you. But it goes on to, I think it's 40-some chapters, okay? All right, so now, the first part, Samanya, includes very important sections. It includes a preface and an introduction plus 1 chapter. And Prabhupada puts a lot in this. I mean, it's almost a course in itself. The preface, the introduction, and chapter 1. Okay? So let's just do a little breakdown on that again. We have the preface, introduction, and chapter number 1. Okay? That's our first part. as far as the book goes. All right? And then for the next part, then this is samanya. This is samanya. For sadhana, it goes for 2 to 16. All right? And then the breakdown on that one, I think Raganuga is just chapters 15 and 16. 15 and 16 are Raganuga sadhana. So 2 to 14 are Vaidhi. All right? Let's write that again. The sadhana division, it goes from 2 to 16, right? And chapters 15 and 16, what are they about? Rag, right, rag. And from 2 to 14, it's Vaidhi. Okay? So turn to your neighbor and see if you can do that. It's a little technical, but you really have to orient yourself in this particular book. Okay? Orient yourself. Sorry. General. General description of devotional service. Okay. All right, let's do a little bit of interactive reading now to get a feeling now for the flow of these 19 chapters, okay? So you have your study guides and let's go. Use your little accelerators. So we'll start again with Samanya Bhakti, the preface and introduction, a general description of devotional service. Preface, Bhakti Ras. So this is what the preface is about. So when I stop, you fill in the words, all right? Everybody got his little hand ready to go? Good. Use your little flute finger. You know how to do that too? Yeah. Your right hand and the little finger. Everybody set? So we hear from you. Srila Prabhupada gives us a history of the nectar of and describes its. So we have two keywords, history and purpose. To and everyone. Now we have 3 E's. Educate, elevate everyone to the position of pure devotee, and to explain the concept of Ras. So we're going to hear about a history, purpose, how is everybody going to be elevated to the platform of pure devotional service. Plus the concept of bhakti ras is given. Bhakti ras is the spiritual pleasure of devotional, which one can taste by being trained in the science of devotional. So it's the taste, rasa, right? Rasa. So everybody have an idea of what the preface is going to give us, right? A history, it's going to give us the purpose, and it's also going to give us the description of how one can elevate himself to pure devotional service. And the concept of bhakti ras is explained. So everybody got the general understanding now on this one. Now let's see what's in the introduction. And this is traditional in spiritual literatures. Mangalacharana and the definition of pure devotional service. Mangalacharana, the auspicious beginning. The author invokes by establishing Krishna as the of the book, by offering to the Lord his and by offering. Now we find this also clearly stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we'll use 3 letters, O-B-O. Objectives, benedictions, obeisances. O-B-O. 3 things. Objectives, what are we going to do? Obeisances and benedictions. Please remember those 3. It's standard. It's the way they start. And Krishnadas Kaviraj explains it very, very clearly. So we have it here. After giving and of the whole, he gives the definition of pure devotional, which is the thesis upon which the entire nectar of devotion expands. So one sloka expanded into this book, just as we find the Gita expands from the Chaturshloki and the Bhagavatam expands from the Chaturshloki. So this verse, which we will go over today, is the essence of that book. All right? So what were the 3 things that are part of the Mangalacharana? You should know those. O-B-O. What are they? Obeisances, benedictions, and objectives. What are we going to state? Just as at the beginning of the class, we said today we will learn such and such. Okay? All right. Chapter 1. Characteristics of devotional service. Pure devotional service is so and that devotees engaged in service don't want anything besides that, not even the of Salokya. They don't necessarily even want to be with Krishna, right? The service is what they're satisfying. All right, characteristics of pure devotional service. Now, it's very important that we know that. Why do you think we have to know what pure devotional service is? Because if you don't know, would you aim for it? And you might be cheated, right? Someone will tell you, oh, this is devotional service. So you have to know it by scriptural definition. Otherwise, you'll be misled, and you won't even know what to aspire for. It takes many, many lakhs of births to know what you should desire. Most people in the world, you ask them what the goal is, they don't know. And even devotees have to be fixed if they want to get to the goal. If they're not clear, then they won't get there. Does that all make sense? So the book helps you clarify the goal and the process for attaining it. Otherwise, you won't get there. Simple, isn't it? Does that make sense? So this book is essential for pure devotional service. Okay, now let's follow in the sadhana bhakti section. Remember 2 to 16 and 2 to 14 was Vaidhi sadhana, and 15 and 16 were Raganuga sadhana. Okay, note This wave is divided into two parts as follows. Part 1, chapters 2 to 14 are what? Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Following the rules and regulations according to the Guru's instructions. You have to follow the rules and regulations. I heard Srila Prabhupada make a nice analogy. He said when natural love hasn't been awakened, it's like a car. You know, sometimes the car won't start. And they sometimes have to push it to get it going, to give it a kickstart. So he compares Vaidhi Sadhana to that. You sort of have to give yourself a little bit of a push, you know, like do this and do that. And then eventually, you know, it goes. So I thought that was a sort of a sweet little analogy. Part 2, chapters what? 15 to 16, right. This is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Raganuga also has sadhana. It's not as though it's just emotions. There is sadhana to Raganuga. And this is called spontaneous devotional practice. Okay. All right, let us now go through the summaries here for the chapters so we just get a feeling for the flow of the book. Is everybody okay with this right now? And then we'll go into the definition as the final thing for today. Okay. Chapter 2, this is about the principles of sadhana bhakti. The 3 categories of devotional service are, with particular on sadhana bhakti. One's eligibility for practicing sadhana bhakti is to pleasing, and the most important part of this is to always Krishna and never forget him. Okay, so this is the most important feature of this practice. Chapter 3 is called, remember one of our topics was what? Eligibility, right. For accepting. Yeah, we want to find out, well, do we have the eligibility for that? Let's find out. The prerequisite for beginning devotional is attraction, yes, which is obtained by the mercy of a, so we have to get mercy to have that, okay? Advancement in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti depends on one's level of and of the, now this is a very important sentence. That's why we're studying. How many here want to advance? Okay. So what do you have to increase? Faith and knowledge of the scriptures. Without that, you can't. It's sahaja, it's illusion. When one is free from the, oh, that's very high, of life, while having the exclusive desire to serve, he is qualified to practice pure. So, what's the prerequisite for pure devotional service? Free from the bodily concept. So see, now any myth we have about how easy it will be, or no, it's not a cheap thing. You have to know the standards. Let's find out what's in chapter 4. Pure devotional service, free from desire for and sense. All right, so let's find out what that says. Further evidence is given in support of the statement that are free from the desire for and mukti. Mukti is enjoyment and mukti is liberation. Devotional service is above that. Devotees of Krishna in reject the for all, even personal liberation to, yeah, that's higher than that. Okay. Let's see what's in chapter 5. Pure devotional service is self-sufficient and independent. This is a very important point. Generally, to practice, one must have a great deal of qualifications, such as pious, purification through Vedic, and following Varnashram. Bhakti is not dependent on any of the above 3 prerequisites. These are helpful, but they're not required. Birth, Vedic rituals, and Varnashram. Bhakti is independent. Devotional service is the constitutional of the living entity. Therefore, both the of bhakti and for bhakti are of consideration of caste, community, and other processes. So important. Bhaktisiddhanta and Prabhupada had to work so hard to establish this because the caste concept had people held to the belief that if you didn't have birth as a Brahmin or you weren't, have all these Vedic, you had no hope. That's not correct at all. The Shastras prove that. That had to be established. Chapter 6, now we start ways to practice devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami basically lists the 64 items of, so our whole book now will be showing us the 64 items of devotional service. Let's see what's in chapter 7. Evidence regarding devotional principle. Because again, they have to prove it from Shastra, not just say it, they show you. Here, the first 18 items of devotional service. The 10 pravrittis, do's. And the first 8 don't are further explained in chapter 7. Pravritti are the 2 words, do, nivritti, don't. Chapter 8, offenses to avoid. Here, the 19th item of devotional service, carefully avoiding the various in chanting the of the Lord or in worshiping the in the temple. So there are all kinds of offenses. Seva aparad, Vaishnava aparad, Guru aparad. There's so many aparads, and then you find in Bhajan Rahasya other major obstacles to devotional service. The 32 offenses are listed in supplementary Vedic literature and others from the Varaha. The 10 against the holy name, as found in the Padma, are described here. So they're listed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also. Chapter 9, ways to practice pure devotional service. Scriptural is given for items 20 through of the 64 angas of bhakti, with emphasis on chanting and prayer. Okay, so actually this book is actually a handbook. You'll find out exactly what to do, what not to do, what offenses to avoid. It's quite specific. Chapter 10, ways to practice pure devotional service. So that's just like chapter 9, it's a continuation. Scriptural evidence is given for items 43 to of the 64 angas of, with emphasis on and remembering. Okay, so you see, we have quite a few chapters on the practices, going through the 64 angas. This is our walk through the book today. Okay. Ways to practice pure devotional service, also chapter 11. Evidence is given for items 2, 53 of the 64 of bhakti, with emphasis on servitude, friendship, and surrender. Okay, we're going to higher rungs now. Chapter 12 also, what is it also? Ways to practice devotional service. Scriptural evidence is given for items 2, 64. The 64 items of bhakti, the last 5. 5 of which are considered to be the most potent forms of devotional service, with emphasis on festivals and the 5 most important forms of devotional service. So it sort of takes you to the very top in this last section. Okay, then chapter 13, it's an elaboration on the 5 most potent practices of devotional service. This chapter completes the discussion of the 64 items of devotional service, elaborates on the effects of performing the 5 potent forms of devotional service described in chapter, and begins to discuss some items wrongly considered to be angas of bhakti, because there are many misconceptions. People may be practicing something, but it's not really bhakti. Next. Chapter 14. The relation of devotional service to other spiritual practices. Srila Rupa Goswami continues to explain why certain items thought to be angas of cannot be accepted as such. So he elaborates on that last point. Now, in chapter 15 and 16, we have come to Raganuga Bhakti, right? Raganuga Sadhana. Spontaneous devotional service is called Ragatmika. This chapter describes Ragatmika Bhakti, the spontaneous devotional service of the eternal residents of Vrindavan, the Ragatmikas. Chapter 16, again, is spontaneous devotional service in practice. The process of Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous devotional service in practice, is described. So you see, this is quite a complete handbook. All right, now Bhav Bhakti. Let us see what is in that section. Devotional service in ecstatic love. Chapter 17, the definition and attainment of. That's really important because there are 9 features. And those features will help you know what the goal is and also be able to discriminate whether someone's bona fide or not. If those symptoms are there or not there, it's a good checklist for ourselves and also for, not being misled. This chapter describes the ways and means of, to the platform of ecstatic love for Krishna. Chapter 18, symptoms of. This important chapter examines of a person who has developed. By studying them, one will understand between the ecstatic love of a genuine devotee and the so-called ecstatic symptoms of a pretender. Right. Now our last one, Prema Bhakti. Devotional service in pure love of God. Prema Bhakti. In this chapter, the definition and attainment of is described. The development of is a gradual evolution beginning with Shraddha. Okay, so we walked through the book really fast. Did it help you get a picture of what is in the Nectar of Devotion? All right, now let's take a peek at the handouts that you have. Maybe Samohini, you want to make sure Mataji gets a copy of that. I don't know if she got. Oh, you got the handout. Okay. Let's take a look at the first page, because we want to spend time also on the Bhagavatam today. Now this first page is really very nicely done. The definition of bhakti is here, plus it has described its primary and its secondary characteristics. That definition. There are primary characteristics and secondary. What are there? Primary and secondary. So we have 3 primary, and we have how many secondary? 2. 3 primary, and this we want to know today. The sloka, if you see here, is all ones. 1.1.11. Right? Chapter 1, section 1, chapter 1, and sloka 11. And this is the sloka on which the whole Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu expands. So let us repeat. Anyabilashita shunyam Jnana karmadi anavritam Anukulena krishnanu Shilanam bhaktir uttama. Now this is a memory verse, and it's an important one because it's quoted all the time. This is the definition of what we hope to attain. Okay? So I will read, and when I stop, you fill in. This is the translation from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When first class devotional service, one must be of all material knowledge obtained by monistic and fruitive. The devotee must serve Krishna as Krishna. That's it. That's it. That's the devotion. That's what we want. This one paragraph is what we have to attain. Krishna is known as Akila Rasamrita Murti. He is the reservoir of all, and he is the attractor of the. He is also addressed as Rishikesh. Okay, so this first section, if you master this, you fulfill it, you've attained pure devotional service. Now, this other sloka, 1.1.12, this is the next one, right? We have 1.1.11, now 1.1.12. This is quoted all the time. Actually, now in these present bodies, we are misidentifying. I'm American, I'm Indian, I'm man, I'm woman, I'm a little boy, I'm a mommy, I'm a this or that. These are called upadhis. They're false designations. In order for pure devotional service to arise, these have to go. If you're still thinking, I'm an American, I'm an Indian, I'm a man, I'm a woman, there's still misidentification with the upadhis. This is a very important understanding. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. So let's hear the translation. These two slokas are essential. Bhakti or means engaging all our in the service of the Supreme Personality of the Master of the. When the spirit soul renders unto there are two side. How many? Two. One is freed from all designations, and simply by being in the service of the Lord, one's senses become purified. These two slokas, you'll hear them all the time. These are to be memorized. Okay, let us now commit to memory in our last few minutes here the three primary characteristics at the top. Can you see these three? Yeah. Right, these are called Swarup Lakshana. Swarup. Primary characteristics. What are they called? And the Sanskrit? Swarup Lakshana. First point. Devotional service is only for Krishna. Right, it's not for Durga or my mommy or my my television set. It's only for Krishna. Bhakti is meant for Krishna exclusively. Number two. So did you get the first one? Yes. It's only for Krishna. So think about that. If you're going to the store and you're going to do something for your grandmother, you know, maybe it's a little far, but you have to really remember, what's bhakti, really? Okay. Devotional service is an active engagement. Anushilanam. Anushilanam. Guided by the... Yes, without the spiritual master, you may be concocting. Devotional service is an active. It's not passive, right? Active, not just emotion. Anu, what's the word again? Anushilanam. Guided by this. So our first quality was what? It's only for Krishna. And it's active engagement guided by spiritual master. Devotional service is executed with favorable intent. And this is Sanskrit anukulyena. Kamsa and Shishupal always thought of Krishna, but that is not called pure devotional service because the attitude is not favorable. Sometimes hatred is stronger than affection. you really hate something, you can't get your mind off of it. But that's not favorable devotional service. So the attitude, this is the whole thing. Remember in Nectar of Instruction? Attitude. What's your attitude? That's what is the difference between the quality of work. Not the externals aren't the important thing. What's the attitude? Devotional service is executed with favorable intent. So if you see people are doing something and they're, it's not bhakti. It may be something else, but you understand the point. The mood has to be proper, and the intention has to be to please who? Krishna. And it has to be active, not just emotions. All right, so can you turn and tell your neighbor, what are the 3 primary Swarup Lakshana of Bhakti? Okay? Because we're not writing this on our slates, but we're just using this because this is a handy guide. Okay, everybody clear now on the Swarup Lakshana of the definition? For Krishna, active, guided by the spiritual master, favorable. Okay, got those 3 points? How are you doing, Govinda Kund? Is that clear for you today? Are you clear, Govinda Kund? Everything okay? This is very, very wonderful book. Let us do the 2 secondary ones. Just like we're tatastha, right? As jivas, we're marginal. So tatastha here are secondary. It has 2 secondary characteristics called what? Tatastha, Lakshana. The first one are Swarup, Lakshana. Secondary are Tatastha, Lakshana. There are 2. Free from ulterior motive. Yes, you can't have a hidden agenda. This is called Anya Bilashita Shunyam. Shunyam means void, devoid of any hidden agenda. I'm into bhakti, but I really want power. I really want money. I really want fame. No, no, no. That's not going to get you there. And that's called Anya Bilashita Shunyam, without any ulterior motive. They say hidden agendas. 5, not covered by Gyan or other pursuits such as or yoga. Right. So they said, because these can cover bhakti. And the Sanskrit is Gyan Karmadi Anavritam. Jnana, Karmadi, Anavritam. So the 2 qualities that are Tatastha Lakshana, no ulterior motive, Anyabilashita Shunyam, that's your first line. And your second line is what? Jnana, Karmadi, Anavritam. Not covered by Gyan, Karma, or Yoga, or any other process. Okay? So we have in the first part, the last 2 lines were the primary characteristics, right? And in the second part, the Tatastha, the first 2 lines. Everybody understand that now? You got the sloka. Okay, everybody's good with this today so far? You don't understand? The last two lines of the definition are Anukulena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Those are given the first position. Those are your primary characteristics, swarup. That's primary. It has to be for Krishna. It has to be executed by the guidance of a spiritual master, and it has to be favorable. So that constitutes the last two lines of the sloka. The first two lines are the tatastha lakshana, right? Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. There can be no hidden motive, and there should be no covering of karma, gyan, or other processes. Is that better, Govindakund? No. Still not clear. That's okay. This is so important. Okay, tell me what's still unclear. The general thing or specific?
The secondary characteristics.
Yeah, the secondary characteristics are referring to the first two lines of the Sanskrit. You see, free from ulterior motive is the first line. Anyabhilashita shunyam. Do you see that? Okay, that means sunya, void, yeah. Sunyavadi, we say it in our mantras. Okay? So the first line is ulterior motive, no ulterior motive. The second line is of the sloka is what? Gyan, karmadi, anavritam. And that means no covering of gyan, karma, or other processes. Is that okay? Is that clear? It's just that she reversed the order. She gave you the primary qualities first, which are referred to in the last two lines of the sloka. And then she gives you the secondary features, which are referring to the first two lines. Is everybody clear? This is so important. This verse is the whole book. Is that okay, Govindakund? Good. I want you, especially, there should be no doubts. No doubts. Do you find this sheet helpful? It's a nice little thing. Okay. Let us now take out our mind maps on the 5th canto, and we're going to be reading together a little bit today. Okay? Lots of reading together today. And we'll take out the condensed Bhagavatam. We're not allowing as much time, perhaps, as we wish we could to the Bhagavatam, but if you'll just take a moment again to get out your slates, your writing slates, just so we have the mental picture. It's really important to get oriented. So please open up your computers to what book? Srimad Bhagavatam. And with your map in front of you, because this helps you orient yourself, contextual reference. Because if we just read pastimes, many pastimes we know, but we need to know where they are, and we need to know their relationship to the whole Bhagavatam, why they're there, why are the planetary systems in Canto 5? And why is that there? You know, you'll find out when you know the contextual reference. So now we go to Canto 5, which we find out is how many chapters? It has 26 chapters. And we have put the two parts, one on each side of the charts. Narayani Mataji has shown two divisions. And they're quite distinct, actually. They're quite distinct. But in total, we'll put 4 dots to represent a total of 4 subdivisions in this entire canto. How many subdivisions? 4. And we'll put the sections 1 through 6. This is the first division, and we'll cover it right now. We'll put it. This is LR, Lord Rishabh, and we're hearing these chapters in the morning classes. We're now in chapter 6 in the classes. You're able to follow. So we're obviously going to start with chapter 7. And this is going to take us up through 15, right? It's not showing up well on the screen. That's not, looks like a 6. It's 15. 7 through 15 is the section on Maharaj Bharat, the eldest son of Lord Rishabh, and his 3 lives. 3 lives. Very famous pastime. Almost every child will know the story of Bharat and the deer, and maybe Jud Bharat, not perhaps as well. Okay? But this is probably the pastime that's most known in the Bhagavatam 5th canto, the deer story. Okay? Actually, many amazing pastimes here. So Lord Rishabh is where? 1 through 6, and Maharaj Bharat is 7 to 15. Okay, turn over your maps. Now the second part has to do with the creation, actually, the universe that we're in. So this section is going from 16 to 19. And here we have prayers by the residents of Jambudweep. And we are on Jambu. If you say, where do I live? I'm on Jambu. In case you didn't know it. That's your bigger picture. You may say, well, I'm in Vrindavan and on the Earth planet, but you're on the island of Jambu. And you'll see where we actually are in relationship to the planetary system. So in case you didn't know, you're on Jambu. And you'll hear prayers by the residents of Jambudweep. These are chanted many and often in Didi worship, 16 through 19. From 20 to 26, we're going to have the what? Right, this is the structure of the planetary systems. These are PS, the planetary systems, and we hear about the structure of the universe, the planetary systems. We hear about the movements of the sun and the orbits of the planets, the hellish planets, the Shishimar. So many things are here. It's quite complete description. This is an amazing canto. And we have pretty elaborate charts from the past for this. I don't think we've passed those out yet. Next time we will. Showing you the Jambudweep, the islands, the planetary systems. Okay, Lord Rishabh 1 through Maharaj Bharat is 15. Prayers by the residents of 16 through 19, and planetary systems 20 to 26. So erase that really quickly and do it, and tell your neighbor as you do it, just so you're oriented before we start to read. Everybody got contextual reference? We're okay. We'll just do a walkthrough of the compressed name, one-word name. So follow along with your chart and your hand and repeat. Priyavrata. This is chapter 1. Chapter 2, the key word is Agnidra. Chapter 3, Rishabdev. Chapter 4, characteristics. This is always going to be of him. And then chapter 5, his teachings. And chapter 6, his activities. Okay, so most of this is Rishabdev. Most important chapter is the teachings of Lord Rishabdev, quoted by Srila Prabhupada so extensively. Now we go into chapter 7, and the key word is Bharat. Right, and then it's character, chapter 8. And chapter 9, Jad Bharat. And chapter 10, the name is Rahugana. And chapter 11 and 12 combination, the word instructs. Jad Bharat's instructing King Rahugana. And 13, the word is conversation. Actually, this is a long dialogue, 4 chapters altogether. And finally, talks. Okay, 11 through 12, conversation. I hope I didn't get the numbers confused. 11 through 12 is instructs. 13 is talks. 14 is forest. Great forest of enjoyment. And 15 is the glories of the descendants of Maharaj Bharat. Glories, okay? So turn it over quickly. Now we start on the section on prayers by the residents of Jambudvip. The key word is Jambudvip for chapter 16. Say Jambudvip. And then next is the Ganges. It descends, how she descends. Then we have prayers. And you see the little drawings of all the incarnations. And then the final one is description of the island. Island is your key word. And you get the focus here on Naranarayan Rishi. Now starting with 20, right? The key word is universe. We're getting to the structure. 21 is the movement of the sun. And then we're going to find 22, the orbits of the planets, and 23, the Shishimar planetary system, and the next one is 24, the subterranean heavenly planets, and then in 25, the glories of Ananta, and in 26, hellish, very scary section, hellish planets, very scary section. Okay, so let's now open our Bhagavatams, and I'll show you the page in my book. It may be 1 or 2 pages different in yours. This is a very old edition. We'll just touch upon a few paragraphs. Just going to jump through quickly. On page 133 in my old edition, so it may be slightly different, 1 or 2 pages different in the more recent ones. In this section, at the beginning, it's about Priyavrata, who is an elder son, but he's been instructed by Narada to become a renunciate, but Brahma comes to tell him he must rule the world. Okay, now on the second, on my page 134, the paragraph for me, it said, Lord Brahma then said. Can you all find that one? It's very important. I tried to read through this to find out what was really... Can everybody find Lord Brahma then said? My dear Priyavrata, everybody find it? Please listen to me. Do not be of the Supreme, who is beyond our power of all of us, including Lord Narada, and must carry out his... No one can avoid the order of the Supreme Personality of, on the strength of his mystic, physical intelligence, or by any other means. So we cannot avoid Krishna's order. And he said the word, do not be envious. That's why we're here. We didn't want to listen. So this is very important. Now on another next page, my dear Prince. Can you find that one? Next page. Everybody got it? My dear Prince, if one is not, he must always fear material, even if he goes from forest to, because he's living with six, the mind and the... On the other hand, even household cannot harm a self-satisfied who has conquered his... Indeed, one who is situated in household life and systematically his mind and senses is like a king in his... who defeats his powerful enemy. So this is very important for all of us, right? You have to live with your mind. That's pretty scary. It goes with you. Okay. So King Agnidra, he's one of the sons. That's the second one. And he gets very attracted to a very beautiful heavenly damsel that's been sent down. And her name is Purvachiti. Purvachiti. Okay. So we'll go to the last two paragraphs of this section. If you can find that, Purvachitri thus became attracted by the king's learning, youth, beauty, behavior, opulence, and she lived with him for many years, enjoying both earthly and celestial happiness. And the womb of his wife, Agnidra, begot 1 year after the other, named Nabi. Now this is why we're reading this, because these are the names of the different Varshas. Kimpurusha, Harivarsha, Ilabrita, Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, Kuru, Bhadrashva, and Ketumala. So when we study the universe, these different 9 sons were awarded one of the 9 Varshas. Jambu is divided into Varshas, tracts. Just like you'll have Chaitanya Bihar. It's a tract. So these sons, their names become the names of the 9 Varshas. These kingdoms, which are the 9 Varshas, received the names of these 9 brothers. When her sons had grown up, Purvachiti returned to, so that she could pay her respects to. After her departure, Agnidra always thought of her because of his lusty had not become. After his death, he was promoted to where Purvachiti resided. After the passing away of their father, the 9, headed by Nabi, married the daughters of Meru. Okay, so now let us go to another pastime here. We're going to go into some of Rishabhadev's teachings. So many here. Let's go. My page is 141. One can attain liberation. Can you find that one? Is it 142 in your books? You all find it? All of his teachings are unbelievable. Okay? One can attain from material bondage only by service to advanced. For others who are not interested in the path to is easily traversed by associating with who are fond of and sexual. When a person considers sense to be the principal aim of his, he becomes mad after materialistic and thus engages in all kinds of sinful. He does not know that he has received his present miserable material due to his past. It's so important. People don't know that. He cannot understand how it is not good for him to continue the activities of that will perpetually keep him in material. Even though one may be very learned, he is to be considered, if he does not understand that endeavors for sense gratification are a useless waste of time. So heavy, huh? And then we'll go to this other paragraph, my dear sons. Okay? And that'll be, just a couple more. My dear sons, you should accept and elevated as your spiritual, as the means of surrendering unto me, the Supreme Personality. Under his direction, you should perform all kinds of, while executing devotional service unto the Supreme. By the practice of Bhakti Yoga, you will become elevated to the highest stage of transcendental, and thus understand that to receive the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the actual aim of life. Okay. And now let us quickly go to a little bit about Maharaj Bharat. I have page 143, maybe page 144 for you. One day, y'all have that one? Famous pastime. After finishing his morning, Maharaj Bharat sat down on the riverbank and concentrated upon the chanting of his. At this time, a thirsty female deer came there, and as she was drinking the water with great, a lion suddenly roared very loudly. The black doe was by nature always afraid of being killed, and thus her eyes continually moved about. When she heard the lion's tumultuous roar, she became very agitated and looked around here and there with, even though she had not yet drank to her full satisfaction, the doe suddenly leaped across the stream out of. She was pregnant, and when she jumped, the baby fell from her womb into the flowing. Due to being separated from her flock and very distressed because of the miscarriage, the doe fell down exhausted inside a cave and died. And you know that pastime. Pretty amazing, huh? And I think we'll have time for maybe just one more quick little Judd Bharat. On page 147, at the very bottom. Thereafter the dacoits brought Judd Bharat. Can you find that one? This is another famous pastime. Okay? And this will be our last one. Thereafter the dacoits brought Judd Bharat before the deity of goddess Kali while offering her incense, lamps, flowers, parched grain, newly sprouted twigs, and fruits. While worshiping the deity, they sang songs and offered prayers while playing upon drums and bugles. Finally, Judd Bharat was made to sit down before the deity while the dacoit, who acted as the chief, picked up a very sharp and fearsome sword. After consecrating it with mantras of Bhadrakali, then so he could offer Judd Bharat's blood as a for the goddess to. The dacoit priest raised the sword slowly over his head. And you know what happened later. Okay, so we will stop there. It's all very exciting. This is his nectar, every chapter. We can only touch upon it. I hope you find some time to read these pastimes. At least listen if you have your audio books, okay? And you've got the walkthrough, you know, sort of the general picture. Next time we'll take out the charts on the universe, Jambudweep, and we want to learn the islands and the Varshas. So we have our little flight assistant bringing you your fruit, and you can put the, if you have a sticker on the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu overview, then those papers should go back. If you have your own copy, if you've acquired your own copy, please save it so we can use it in this module. And we thank you all for coming today. We pray that Lord Krishna is pleased. Remember, bhakti means trying to please who? Krishna, favorably, with no motive. I think this group is quite sincere. I don't think you would be coming here in hot weather if you had some big hidden agenda. And I hope if you have a little time tonight, you can share this with someone so it goes more deeply into your consciousness.